Welcome back to Silk Warrant. Today in this story is about a girl who was treated like she didn't belong until she found the people who never stopped looking for her.
The mop handle cracked against the kitchen tile at 5:47 a.m. and I picked it up without looking at her. That was my mother, my adoptive mother, Deanne. I didn't call her that back then, not in my head. In my head, she was just the sound of footsteps in a clean house that never felt warm. The smell of bleach never fully left my hands. No matter how many times I washed them, it stayed in my skin like it had learned my name, like it belonged there more than I did. I remember thinking something strange even as a child. She doesn't know what's in the drawer upstairs. She never asked about the envelope. That thought used to sit in my mind quietly, like a second heartbeat. I didn't understand it yet. But I knew it mattered. I was 6 years old when I came to live with the Callaways, Diane and Robert. Their house was in Naperville, Illinois. It looked perfect from the outside. Beige walls, white fence, trimmed lawn, the kind of house people point at and say, safe. But safety is not what a house feels like. Safety is what a house gives you, and this one didn't give anything. The drive there is blurry, but I remember small things. The social worker had a pine tree air freshener hanging from her mirror. It swayed every time the car turned. Left, right, left, and I counted the cardboard triangles on it, not because I liked it, because I didn't know what else to do with my eyes. I thought if I stopped counting, something might happen to me. When we arrived, Diane opened the door. She was wearing a cream blouse. Her smile came first, then her voice, then her eyes. She had a way of smiling where her teeth arrived before her warmth did. "You're going to love it here," she said. I nodded, because children learn early that agreement is safer than truth. She was half right. I did love something there. The house itself, not her, never her. The house had rooms that didn't shout. It had corners that didn't judge. It had silence that felt organized. That's what I loved. Within 3 weeks, I understood my place. Not my room. Not the small bedroom at the end of the hall with the window facing the alley. Not that. My place meant something else. It meant the version of me they required. Marcus was their biological son, 8 years old. He played soccer. He had shoes that cost more than anything I had ever owned. He left them everywhere. In the hallway, under chairs, near the kitchen door, and I learned something very early. If I picked them up before Diane saw them, I was invisible. If I didn't, I became a problem. So I picked them up, every time. No one ever raised their voice in that house. That's important. People imagine cruelty as noise, but their cruelty was quiet, it lived in routines. In looks, in pauses that lasted half a second too long. It lived in expectations that were never spoken out loud, but always understood. I cooked scrambled eggs by 9 years old, every Saturday. Same pan, same heat, same silence. By 11, I was doing my own laundry, and half of Diane's, she never asked me to, she just stopped noticing that I was a child. And started treating me like a function. Robert was not cruel. That would be too simple. Robert was absent in a way that felt intentional. Like he had trained himself not to see anything that required responsibility. He came home late. He ate what was placed in front of him. He nodded sometimes. Then disappeared again into rooms I was not part of. Marcus never hated me, he barely saw me, and that was almost worse. Because being ignored by someone who is loved teaches you what you are in the structure of that world. Nothing important enough to notice. But here is the thing they never understood. I was watching everything. Not emotionally, not loudly, just collecting like my mind was building a map. Every word, every reaction, every silence. Stored, filed, not forgotten. Diane thought silence meant obedience. She believed that completely. But silence can also mean observation, preparation, distance. I was 13 when I found the envelope. It was not dramatic. No music, no warning, just a drawer. Robert's filing cabinet. Bottom shelf. Insurance MISC. The lock was broken. It had been broken for years. No one fixed it. Because no one cared enough to think something could be missing. Inside was a manila envelope, unsealed, as if someone had opened it once and never decided what to do with it after that. Inside were documents, But I didn't see those first. I saw the photograph. A woman, dark hair, sitting still in a way that didn't feel calm. It felt paused, like life had interrupted her mid-thought. She was holding a baby, me, but I didn't know that yet. Her eyes were not looking at the camera. They were looking slightly past it, like she expected something to appear any second. Like hope was standing just out of frame. On the back was handwriting. Elena and baby Claire March. Claire, that was not my name was Maya, but March, that part was true. And something in my stomach understood before my mind did. I put everything back exactly how I found it. Perfect edges, aligned corners, because I had learned something very early in that house. Nothing gets questioned if nothing looks disturbed. Then I went to my room, sat on my bed, and stared at the ceiling for hours, not crying, not moving. Just thinking something I didn't have language for yet, that my life had another version, and it had been hidden. After that day, I became two people, the visible one, and the one that was planning an escape without knowing the destination. I kept my grades perfect, not because I was rewarded, but because excellence was the only thing that couldn't be taken without explanation. Scholarship came later, University of Illinois. The acceptance letter felt like air after drowning. Diane hugged me the day I left. She said, "We're so proud of what we built." Built, like I was a project. I nodded, because by then I understood something important. You don't correct people who think they own the story, you just leave the story. College felt like another planet. People called their parents, laughed on phones, complained about love they took for granted. I watched it like a documentary about a species I had not been raised in. My roommate Tessa used to argue with her mother every Sunday, and then laugh 5 minutes later. That laugh stayed with me because it had no fear inside it. That's when I started searching, at first carefully, then obsessively, then quietly again. Because obsession without control becomes noise, and noise gets noticed. I had almost nothing: a name, Elena, a photograph, a month, March, and a feeling I couldn't explain. That somewhere someone had been looking for me longer than I had been missing. I posted online, a forum that looked like it hadn't changed since 2003. Adoptee, searching, Illinois, March, Elena. Then I closed my laptop, because hope is easier to handle when you don't stare at it. 6 weeks later, email, subject line, "I think that's me." Her name was Elena Vasquez. She had been looking for 16 years. 16 years, every registry, every forum, every possible door, closed, and then she saw my post, and she said she knew, because of the nose. That detail broke something in me I didn't know was holding tension. 16 years and a nose. We talked on the phone first time on a Thursday. I had notes. I never used them. Her voice sounded like mine in a different life. Same pauses, same careful way of choosing words, like everything mattered too much to say incorrectly. She told me everything. A relationship, fear. A decision made under pressure. An agency that promised updates that never came, and years of silence that turned into searching. And then she said something I still think about. "I used to tell people you had my grandmother's nose. I've been looking for that nose for 16 years. I sat in silence after that, because how do you respond to being remembered like that? Then came meeting. April, drive, hands steady, heart not. She was standing on the porch, blue cardigan, hands shaking, but eyes already searching, even after finding me, still searching. When I stepped out of the car, she made a sound, not language, just release, like something in her body had finally stopped holding itself together. I handed her the photograph. She turned it over. Saw her own handwriting, and broke, not loudly, just completely. "I kept it," I said. That was all I could manage, because anything more would have collapsed. Later I called Diane. That part matters. Not because of what she said, but because I chose it. I told her everything. Elena, the search, the photograph, the truth she had avoided naming for years. Silence on the line. Then her voice tried to rebuild reality. "We were protecting you," and I interrupted. "You were wrong." Not angry, not loud, just final. "I'm not calling for apology. I don't need one. I'm calling because you should know something. I was never lost. I was just hidden." Then I hung up. After that, nothing smelled like bleach anymore. Because here is what I learned. Being known is not the same as being raised. One is control, the other is recognition. And sometimes, the people who never stopped searching for you were the only ones who truly saw you before they even met you. Now I sit at a table where my name is not a role. It is just my name. Maya, not useful, not invisible, just known. And I still think about that envelope sometimes. Not as a beginning, but as proof. That truth doesn't disappear when hidden. It waits. And the real question is not who lost you. The real question is, who never stopped looking.